watching a Dyer-Situation. Hey, guess what? It's 2015! Yes, thank you. 2014 is finally over. That year sucked! But luckily, not in terms of movies for me. In terms of amount of movies, yes. If you might have noticed, very first year, 2012, I only started partway through the year, saw 20 movies, did a best and worst. Great. The next year, even better, 2013, 27 movies, enough to do a top 5 best and worst. This year, 17 movies. Because movies here are expensive, and I've been going to school and work, and I don't have time or money to do it very often. So basically, I've only been seeing movies that I feel I should give an opinion on. But that did have the have the nice side benefit of making it so I saw a bunch of good movies. Mostly because I was avoiding things that I didn't want to spend my money on, like Transformers, which probably would have ended up lower on the list. I might have seen it if I was still paying $6 a movie back in California, but it's besides the point. 17 movies, so I'm just going back to the best and worst function. But to try and make that less boring, I don't really want to revert back entirely. So instead, I'm going to just show you the top contenders, and then pick a best out of what I think of those. So, without further ado, here is we're going to start up the nice way, the best movie of 2014.
Happy, happy, joy, joy, 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 joy.
Now this one, it's an interesting array. There is exactly 7 movies that I think could possibly qualify for the best movie of the year. And interestingly enough, they are either children's movies, well, you could say family, or superhero movies. I guess I have very specific interests. Family or superheroes. But, yeah, 3 of them, as far as I can see, yep, 3 of them are superheroes, and 4 of them are family movies. And that's great! I don't see anything wrong with that. So, just going to run it down here. Basically, just to have comparison, first up we got Captain America 2. That was really good, reasonably. I know most people were a little disappointed with Captain America 1, thinking it's like the lamer of the Marvel movies. I still thought it was really good, and Captain America 2 was even better. It's what I've come to expect from all the Marvel movies, not much more to say. Then the next one on that list is X-Men Days of Future Past, which totally came out of left field. I know some of the other X-Men movies weren't as well received, and I still don't know if I've seen all of them. But hell, I think if they were all like as good as this, probably they'd have a better reputation. Because X-Men Days of Future Past, it really did kind of push the boundaries of what an X-Men movie could be, you know? It was really dark at times, and it was very interesting, and the characters shined through and all. It was very fun. And that's the thing, it's fun. I liked it. It was fun, and speaking of fun, probably the one that tops the list of the superhero movies is Guardians of the Galaxy. Now I know you're all expecting that one. Guardians of the Galaxy is friggin' amazing. It's very quotable, it's very energetic, it's very fun, and I enjoyed every minute of it. Enough said. If you haven't seen it by now, go see it, definitely. What more else can I say about it? If I'm the only person you can find on the internet praising this movie, you don't go around too much. So, there you go. That's the final contender in the superhero category of my top 7 list, whatever. And then on the family side, we have, starting off, Frozen. Yes, the big, huge phenomenon that everybody loves, that everybody thinks, oh yes, this is the best movie, best Disney movie since The Lion King is something I've heard. I've even heard it compared to Beauty and the Beast, which, I'm sorry it's not, but hey, it seems to be well liked. If among like the internet communities and among friends of mine, not all of them, but most of them. It's a really well-liked movie, and I like it too. The animation is great. The characters are great. The songs are horrible, but... and that's the part I really don't get. The songs are praised, but to me, they're about as good as The Brave Little Toaster. And if you see my Brave Little Toaster Goes to Mars review, Brave Little Toaster's songs are not that good. I do suppose they do further the story, though, which is nice, but they suck. I'm sorry. They're really not that well crafted to me, and I just don't understand why they're so damn popular, especially Let It Go. Like, if I was not connected to the internet, you would not see the show at all, but if I was not connected to the internet, I would honestly not think much of that song sequence at all. Except for maybe pretty animation. But that's it. I wouldn't be like talking with my friends like, oh, this is great. I wouldn't even bring it up. But, like, because of the internet, suddenly it's a huge thing and it never ever stops. And I don't understand. So, there you go. The next contender is the Box Trolls. Yes. I remember Rob, he was looking forward to this for a while, and good for him. I was not, but that's a different story. I liked it. I did like it a lot. Once again, like Days of Future Past, it was very dark, but it's a family film, and it was pushing limits there with being how dark it was. And that was very enjoyable. And it does have such an original story and all. And my personal qualms against stop motion set aside, the animation was really good. Probably the only thing holding it back is that I never felt it was that spectacular or anything. And though it was very stylized and all, it just didn't leave as much an impression on me as some of the other films on this list did. But I did think it worthy enough for an honorable mention here, and to be mentioned as definitely being a top contender on the list. So there you go. See, it was very good. Next is Muppets Most Wanted. Finally, a movie I predicted would be good was actually good. Wow! That's like unheard of with me, but... But yeah, sadly not the best movie of 2014. Spoilers, even though you're gonna see in like 2 minutes what my favorite is. It was not my favorite of 2014, but it was up there. It was definitely up there, and it was very, hope I'm not gonna be repeating stuff. What would I call this? I'd call this the anti-Frozen in terms of songs, because I've listened to those songs on repeat for several months after the movie came out, and the story's very likable. I've heard some people think the celebrity cameos are tedious. I don't know, I think they're played rather comically. Tina Fey is nice. Kevin Spacey, I love Kevin Spacey. That wasn't Kevin Spacey, was it? Shit, I'm getting actors messed up. But don't worry about that. The celebrity cameos were nice, is what I'm saying. Is that I did like Muppets Most Wanted quite a bit, but it's not my favorite. And it's not my favorite mostly because it didn't really live up to the standard that the original film set, The Muppets. It didn't live up to that grand song spectacular that movie was. That movie, the first movie almost, well, technically the 7th movie, almost had me in tears by the end. Almost. And that's more than I can say for any goddamn movie. Okay? Toy Story 3, just to give you an idea, the end of Toy Story 3 just left me kind of weirded out. I did not almost cry at that. The beginning of Up that made me go, aww, but it didn't make me cry. The end of the friggin' Muppets almost made me cry. Almost is a pretty big thing in terms of me. And I just feel that The Muppets Most Wanted didn't really live up to that, and if it had, it would easily top this list. But, no, I'm going down to my last contender, the big one. You should all be expecting this, the Lego Movie. This thing did so much with so little. I mean, how much potential do you think a movie about Legos would be? I mean, the closest equivalent I could think of is the Bionicle movie. Like, hold on, jump cut this movie. See, it was made about, the Bionicles. It's a set of toys that the Lego company makes. And this movie is weird. It's entertaining, and I do enjoy it, but it is definitely not a huge blockbuster like the Lego Movie was. It didn't do so much like the Lego Movie did. The Lego Movie could have easily just been some big old cash-in, like some sort of shitty tie-in game or whatever. It could have easily done that, but instead, it created an original story with great characters, and it did just so much. And I'm blown away by it. Honestly, I am. I am blown away. And that's why I think I'm having such a hard time deciding between Guardians of the Galaxy and the Lego Movie for the best movie of 2014. Oh, I should have mentioned this at the start. I know that some of the movies on this list, and the bad list included, technically came out in 2013, but I do not care. They came out in theaters here 2014, or at least I saw them in 2014. And that's going to count for any movies like Annie or whatever that I might see here. I'm going to count them as 2015 because that's the year I saw them in. Moving on. I love how this year I'm actually having a really tough call between what is the best movie. Whereas the other years, it was a tough call, well, at least the 2012 year was a tough call as to what was the worst movie. Between Madagascar 3 and Men in Black 3, I had such a hard time trying to figure out which one I thought was worse. And this year, I'm having such a hard time figuring out which one is better. Both of them are so much fun. Both of them involve a group of weirdos trying to stop, like, trying to stop something really bad from happening with a mysterious object that controls the fate of the world, and, well, they're practically the same movie. But, hey, that's great, I love it. They're still so stylistically different. They still do have different twists and turns, and oh man, it is just like 2012 with the Madagascar 3 and Men in Black 3. I mentioned even back then that those movies were so similar in the way they were bad that it was such a hard choice to make, so I just had to kind of choose one and go with Men in Black 3. But this year, it's the exact opposite. I'm doing it for the good one now. I have no idea which one I'm going to pick, so I'm going to have to end up doing the same thing and just kind of going with my gut and just picking one over the slightest thing that I find slightly better about it. And I'm going to go with the Lego Movie. Whew. Okay, and my reasoning behind this is that superhero movies, though I love the hell out of them, they're starting to oversaturate the market, but there is nothing like the Lego Movie out there. Okay. Alright, that was hard. That was tough. Please, I don't mind if you have a different opinion on this, even if you like some of the contenders on my list even more. I don't mind at all. So, yeah. You are free to disagree with my decision. Even I kind of disagree with my decision, but there it is. The best movie of 2014, the Lego Movie! And now, for the worst movie of 2014.
Damn you! You little prying Pandora! You little demon! Now you cannot ever be free! Damn you! Curse you!
as I mentioned before, I didn't see most of the movies, including the movies that I knew would be bad. I never saw the 50 Shades of Grey movie. I never saw Transformers 4 or the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. I probably missed out on really bad movies that would have easily beaten this list. And to be honest, none of the things on this very small list are even compare with with last year's lists. Like Men in Black 3 and Madagascar 3, they're easily worse than these contenders. And same thing with Scary Movie 5. Scary Movie 5 is on my top 5 list of the worst movies I've ever seen. These movies here do not compare with it. These movies here would be maybe on my top 200 worst movies I've ever seen. But they're still bad. So, if you might have noticed, on the little list there, one of them was kind of flashing a little. That was Maleficent. That's because I feel I should put it on there, considering how universally hated this movie is. But even after all these months, even after hearing all these reasons for why it's bad, I still kind of like it. And it's driving me crazy. I don't even understand myself why I kind of like it, but there's just something about it. Something about the way that it gives no fucks about how awful it is. I know that's, like, counterproductive, but my God, they are so obvious about not even trying that somehow it loops around and becomes good again. And I don't understand. I don't understand why, how, who it did that. I mean, it's not even like The Room where I find it so bad it's good. Somehow it's so bad that it loops around and it becomes badly good and goodly bad. And cats and dogs are living together and I don't know what's going on anymore. So, yeah, it's not technically part of the list. The list technically only has 3 things on there. And here they are. So, let's see. I'm going to save the worst for last. I'm pretty sure you'll get what the worst one... If you've been paying attention to my videos, you'll understand what the worst one is already. So first up on the list is Godzilla. I just didn't like it. That's just a plain and simple thing about it. It disappointed me. And yes, I know, apparently the original movie and the original movies maybe are kind of like that too, where Godzilla's hardly seen and it's kind of slow and the main character's boring and stuff, but... So? I expect more from modern cinema. I mean, if there's anything it can accomplish, it doesn't make me so bored. I mean, yeah, I've seen some of those older movies and the designs are pretty cool, but they are kind of boring sometimes. And it does take, like, super huge nerds like myself to actually sit through them. And, you know, I don't blame them back then when that was just the style of filmmaking and everyone seemed to be fine with it. But today you gotta use your common sense. You're competing with all these other movie makers out there who are trying to make something that everybody wants to see. And this movie didn't accomplish it. And that's why I found it very disappointing and that's why it's on the worst list. But it's not like horrible. The special effects are good, and I guess that final boss battle's alright, but I don't know. I really did want more out of this, and maybe the sequels will be good, but I hate doing that, praising a movie in the hopes that the next movies might be good. Isn't that like finishing a rotten egg in the hopes that the next batch of eggs might be nicer? It's not. I don't approve of doing that, and sadly this movie is kind of crappy, but it's probably gonna get a sequel anyway. So, I guess we'll see. But, there you go. Now, moving on, we have, Tarzan! Who would have guessed the movie that I actually decided to do a Chadwick Jones review on would end up on my honorable mentions for the worst list? Well, there you go. The main problem with this movie is that it could have ended up on the best list, honestly, if not for the fact that it's kind of dull at times. I mean, something like Creature or The Room, movies that are just so out there that you have a really enjoyable time, are way better than this movie. This movie does have its moments. It has that point where Tarzan hurls the rock the size of his head at that helicopter, even though he never showed any ability to do that at any other time in the movie. Like, you could see my full Chadwick review on it, but the thing is that those are only little moments, and the movie overall is really dull. And that's so disappointing. I was hoping that this movie might be the next Creature, and I know I've been searching in vain for years. Well, yeah, for years for the next Creature, but it never ever comes, and I'm so sad. I want a new Creature. And this movie didn't do that for me, so it just kind of slipped back into the bad pile. Oh, disappointing. There you go. You could watch... Oh, actually, no, you can't watch my Tarzan review. I forgot, because apparently, though they do not have the money to actually make a decent film, they have plenty of money to target people who might be using copyrighted footage. That makes sense, doesn't it? They're really protective of their Tarzan movie. I mean, everybody wants the Tarzan movie footage to steal it. I mean, everyone looks so good in that really creepy motion caption bullshit they have going on there. Makes everyone look like an uncanny valley creature. But I am not a lawyer. I am not the person who decides this crap. Once again, I will try to re-release that review at some point in a year or two. When the heat dies down and even the movie's lawyers don't give a crap anymore about who uses the footage. So there you go. And as for number 1, worst goes to the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think that crapfest Amazing Spider-Man 2, you can guess Spider-Man 2, I hope it's not Amazing Spider-Man 2, what it might be. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is one of the most... How do I put this lightly? It is the most nonsensical, non-flowing, non-movie-like superhero movie I have ever seen. Quite honestly, it was painful from start to finish. And just full of disappointment, full of confusion, full of just awful design choices. The focuses are on like the relationship between Spider-Man and his soon-to-be dead girlfriend, and not on superhero stuff. Even Man of Steel, like, it concentrated on superhero-y stuff, or at least, like, I don't know, something. But this movie just meanders along, and I was just waiting for it to end the whole fucking time. Like, within 20 minutes, I was so sick of this movie and the way that it constantly switches back and forth between being a super serious movie like The Dark Knight or whatever, and then suddenly switching to goofy-ass 1980s Superman shit. And it's hard to swallow it. It's hard to take in. This is a really poorly designed movie. And it really shouldn't have been released in the theaters in this way. It has so many moments in it that seem like it was rewritten hurriedly. And I've even heard the comparison that it seems like there was 6 different scripts, 6 different ideas for what the movie would be like, and somebody dropped it and just rearranged all of them into one big thing, and they just went with it. And they're kind of right. It does feel like that the focus just constantly switches, like you're seeing ideas from several different people with no direction to them, like no actual point. And it's awful. As I said, it might not be the most awful film of the year, but to me it is atrocious how bad it was. And just to put it out there, Alex Kowecki, I know that you put a huge comment on one of my, on the Amazing Spider-Man 2 thing, showing your opposing idea, and I really do appreciate that, and I'm really sad that the video was deleted because I accidentally made a horrible editing mistake on it. But hey, you know, he made quite a few good points, and I do respect him for doing that. But I completely disagree. This movie was awful. That is just my opinion, but it was awful. And you can give your rebuttal on that if you want. Any one of you, you can say what you like about it, but it's very unlikely you're gonna convince me over. This was a really painful movie to sit through. It is nowhere near Scary Movie 5 levels. It is nowhere near Madagascar 3, but it was still really, really bad. And even if this was a regular year and I did happen to see all these other bad movies, this thing would have surely broken the top 5 anyway. I just really do not ever want to see this movie again. I am not looking forward to the Sinister Six. I mean, my god, they're doing 6 supervillains in a movie, when in the movie with only 2, you hardly get to know these damned people before they're just out doing their shit. Well, imagine with 6 fucking villains. Are they just gonna hand out the robot suits to people and say, here you go, Dr. Octopus, go break shit? Is that what they're gonna do? That's fucking awful. Remember, like, Spider-Man 2, the older movie, from early 2000s, which once again, these movies, fuck Sony. Fuck Sony. For doing all this greedy bastard bullshit with the Spider-Man franchise. Fuck you. I don't mind that much that you won't give back Spider-Man to Marvel or whatever, but do something nice with him. You went to the trouble of rebooting the franchise. Apparently you're thinking of rebooting the franchise again, and you keep on making the same damn mistakes over and over. But back to the villains thing. Spider-Man 2 with Dr. Octopus, that's one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. It had great suspense, it had great action, it had one villain, one focus, one thing you were going for. Those movies were comic-y, but they were structured like a fucking movie. Is that too much to ask? That our movies act like movies? And not to mention, apparently Amazing Spider-Man 3 isn't gonna come out for a really long time, and there's even rumors of an Aunt May movie. I hope that's a fucking joke. But what the fuck is up with you, Sony? Sony, what the fuck? In my opinion, I think that in 2016, when the Sinister Six comes out, I think that's the year it's coming out, it might just end up on the worst list yet again. That is my opinion, and it's a prediction of the future, so you never know how good it is. But Sony really needs to get their shit together, because right now they're a joke. They're honestly a joke. Fox is laughing at you. Fox kicked your ass this year with X-Men Days of Future Past. It was, to me, it was comparable to Guardians of the Galaxy. Marvel's a huge guy and Fox is keeping up with him, and Sony's like a dying dog. It just can't seem to do what it wants to do. Like, even DC is doing better than them. And I mean that too. Man of Steel is a better movie than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean that wholeheartedly. I might watch Man of Steel again someday. I have no plans to ever watch Amazing Spider-Man 2. It is so bad that it's actually throwing me off of wanting to watch Amazing Spider-Man 1 again. It is because it would remind me of Amazing Spider-Man 2! Plus, it had really bad marketing campaigns that made it seem like a much more popular superhero was going to be one part of the focus, the Rhino controversy, if you know it. But that is just a marketing scam, and that's their problem. But the movie itself is still horrible, and I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. But once again, I encourage you all to write down, to send comments as to what you think, to share your opinions, because I am just one guy, and I only compass one opinion, which is mine, but this movie was shitty. I'm sorry. And, Alex, I do encourage you to repost that comment if you want to. I really am sad that it had to go. But there you go. Worst movie of 2014, calling it right here, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. And there's my list. This has been going on for a very long time, and I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, please, write down, what do you think was the best and worst movies of 2014? What do you think's gonna be the best and worst of 2015? I'm gonna leave my predictions at the end of the video. They're gonna be completely off as usual. Hell, RoboCop didn't make it onto either list this year, which is really good. I really like that it didn't make it onto either list. It was a surprisingly decent film. So, there you go, guys. Have a great time. Have a great 2015. Hope it's better than 2014, which, once again, it sucked. And, I am Glenn Dyer, and you have been watching A Dyer-Situation.
That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working. That's the